afternoon. You are listening to WCEG Network. We are the worldwide community empowerment group where we speak life into the community. Log on to WCEGTalkRadio.com or you can watch us live on your smart TV, on the Roku cable channel, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and now on Fanbase, Blue Sky, and Twitch. Search for WCEG and subscribe on all social media platforms. I'm Ernestine D. Pittman, host of today's show, Take a Stand. Download our free WCEG mobile apps. Last but not least, our disclaimer. The topics and opinions are those of the show hosts and guests and not WCEG Media Enterprise. Thank you for continuing your support. Please sit, listen, and learn how and why you should take a stand. Today's topic is the crisis in the city and the people. And I'm talking about East Point. There is a crisis in our government, and there is a crisis among our residents. To better understand why it is necessary for the people to know what kind of government you have, because you are responsible for holding that government accountable and supporting those who are on council with your presence and your voice and your volunteerism. First, let's discuss East Point form of government. East Point form of government is a council manager form of government, meaning the city council is the head and makes policies, legislation, and hold the key to the purse. They control the money. Your city manager is supervised and appointed by mayor and council. He is answerable to the council, not the mayor, nor individual council members or any group of council members. He is supervised by mayor and council by way of a vote before the public where his directions and all are given by the council. Specifically, in our charter, the roles between the council members and the city manager are plainly stated. It says what the council can and cannot do and what the city manager can and cannot do. The city manager, the mayor nor the council members is supposed to have any direct contact with any employee supervised by the city manager without the city manager's direct approval. If a council member wants to question the department head, he has to get permission from the city manager. Now, if he says no, then the council member take it to the council. If the council feels that this is something that needs to be done or no, they will vote and direct the city manager to cooperate with what is being asked. That is to keep the line of division clear. Too often, council members and the city manager get in this kind of relationship where employees know if the city manager has 5 votes in his pocket, then they are devoted to the council, to the city manager. It is the city manager and those 5 council members whom they feel they have to answer to. That is not our form of government. That is not our form of government. It is the full council. Therefore, the line of demarcation is very clear. Council members are only supposed to be talking to the city manager about city business, the operations and all of the services, calls from residents, because it is set up that residents have no direct interaction with the city manager except on problems concerning their services by the departments over which he supervises. If something goes wrong, the resident, whether it's a renter or homeowner, calls the department head. Said my light, I'm having a problem with my lights. They would call customer care. I'm having a problem with my bill. They would call customer care. If customer care does not respond within 72 hours, which is 3 days, then they would go to the department head. The department head may be the one that they talked to the first time, but if not, they would go to him. The department head would then talk and find out what is going wrong and get back to the resident. That does not happen, then the resident has to go to the city manager and tell the city manager, I have called the department head, I have talked to them, did not get any resolution to my problem. Now I'm calling you. Well, the city manager has 72 hours also to respond back to the resident. If that is not done, then the resident goes to his or her 5 council members who represent that residents directly. Every resident in the city should have a direct line to the 4 at-large council members and their local council member. That's 5, and the mayor makes 6. There is no reason why those 6 people cannot sit as a council and direct the city manager to clear up or address the problem on hand. At-large candidates run for their seats across the city. Every resident in the city that's an eligible voter votes for that person. The same as with the local ward. Why is it, do you suppose, that the at-large election has 5 people? That is enough to make a decision at every council member on any motion without any support from the 4 local wards. Have you ever thought about that? That is because when I moved to East Point. East Point form of government had 5 at-large seats. 4 at-large, 1 for each ward, and the mayor. Which meant as minorities grew in numbers, their voices were not heard because there was no majority anywhere that would support them. So, long story short, me, 4 other residents went to the city council, went to the city manager and the department. And the city manager, who was Joe Johnson at the time, and the council, and stated, we are going to go to the U.S. Department about civil rights because the people, the blacks that are moving into the city, do not have any representation. No matter how large our vote is in Ward C or D, the at-large voters cancel us out. So as a compromise, the city agreed to 5 at-large seats. That did not change. So the majority would always be in power. However, on the local level, you have voices coming from the residents that could easily influence the at-large representative from any ward in the city because they had to be elected by all the residents to assist them in whatever it is they were trying to get done. That was a great compromise, but it's not working here in East Point. And why is it not working here in East Point? Because you, the residents, are not doing your part. You are as much as the problem as the mayor and council members. Your voices are not being heard because you are not speaking up, speaking out, or doing anything, not even going to the polls to vote. Each election cycle, the number of you who go to the polls to vote for the most important office holders in your city gets lower and lower. And why? Why are you so cavalier, so uncaring that you don't even bother to go vote when everything in your life depends upon politics? When I hear residents say, "Oh, I don't want to talk about politics. I don't believe in politics." That is a fool. Politics determines the kind of air you breathe, the safety of the water you drink, the safety of the food that you eat. It determines every facet of your life. That's politics. Now, how do you make politics works for you is determined by how much work you are going and willing to put in to the people who will represent you. If no effort is put into that, then people like Donald Trump gets into office. You have Republican House representative members to get into office at the national and state level, and the Senate as well. The house you stay in and want to buy, that mortgage rate is determined by a federal appointee by the president. People wake up. You can no longer ride on the backs and shoulders of a few, of a minority that may be in a majority where you live, but not countywide, statewide, or nationally. Then you have to make sure that you are present at the ballot box for elections that are held locally, on the state level, and on the national level. How many of you even know that we have a senator up for re-election this year? John Ossoff. If we do not get out there and vote and tell others about it, it's not enough for one person to go to the polls. You need to take two or three others, and you need to be telling everybody you come in contact with why it is important that they vote. Your life depends upon it. They may not care about theirs, but you should care about yours, your family, your friends, your neighbors, even your enemies. Because if they go down, you're going down. Look at what is happening in Minnesota. Those are the bravest people that I know of since the civil rights movement. Those of you who was born after 1964, you have no idea what it was to be treated as a no-class citizen, not a second or third class. Your life meant nothing. Being hosed down, being attacked by dogs, being put in jail, no reason except for your color, losing your jobs, homes bombed, lives taken. You have no idea. Look at what you see happening in Minnesota and understand this could happen here in Georgia. Why should we not stand together? Because when you see footage of the civil rights movement and the violence that took place among the people who were out there, they were not all black. Not everyone believes in the wrong thing, and not everyone believes in the right thing. So you need to take a stand on what is going to be best for all of us. Because nobody is leaving this country going anywhere else. A few may go, But how many of you could even afford to go across town, let alone out of the state to live? We are here together. And let's come back to East Point. East Point is not a haven to live in. No, it is not. It could be better, a whole lot better. And our governing laws, ordinances, and policies exist to make us better. But you have to know the rules and you have to abide by them. And if they have become outdated, then repeal them. If some parts are good and another part needs to be remedied, amend it. But don't just forget that it exists or decide that it's bothersome, cumbersome. So forget it. I'm going to do what I want to do. That can never become the attitude of a council member, let alone the mayor and the council, or even residents. This is our city. And I want to tell you a few things about our city. Residents, homeowners are not the only important people in this city. Yes, they pay property taxes, but that property tax money that the city collects pales in comparison from the money that comes in because of state laws or federal laws. Every resident in this city counts, everyone, because any federal dollars coming into this city is dependent upon our population. Now, if you want to go throw away the renters, you will in a world of hurt. Renters have always outnumbered the number of homeowners in any city in the United States. That's just it. Everybody can't be a homeowner. Everybody don't want to be a homeowner. But those who are homeowners are more likely to be participants in their government than renters. You think of our renters as being very transient. They move from here and there. That's not always true. You have a lot of stable renters who stay in their homes and their apartments. You will be surprised how many renters are in homes that you thought were being bought or had been purchased, and they're homeowners. We should not make a different or try to distinguish with any kind of policy that would separate or antagonize or cause any division between renters and homeowners. East Point needs both, working together to make our lives better. Now, back to what our charter says about that. Our charter says we are going to have an educated mayor and council. The only requirements for an elected official in East Point, the state of Georgia, or the United States Congress is based on age and residency. Any fool can run for elected official in the city of East Point, the state of Georgia, and the Congress. And you see that every day. Any fool. Now there are rules that says you can't be a felon, and we know that could not hold it true for everybody because we have a convicted one sitting in the White House, and that's a story enough for another day. What can we do for people who have gone to prison, served their time, come out, and trying to make a better life for themselves and their family? How can their voting rights be restored? But right now, we are here with the requirements here in East Point and the state of Georgia. It doesn't say you have to have a job. It doesn't say you have to have a profession. It doesn't say that you don't that you can't have to have a wife or children. Those are not the requirements. Those are things that may or may not be important to you, the resident. If you believe that there are certain things that a candidate should have at the time of running for office that's important and needed where you live, then that's what you ought to support. And if you support that, then try to get other people in the community to see your point of view. And don't let it be personal. Oh, she went with my cousin, wife, husband, he went with, he didn't go to church. Those are not reasons, logical and objective reasons for not voting for someone. Their morals may not be as polished as some of yours. They may not be saints like you are, but then they don't have to be devils either. However, whomever runs and get elected, that becomes our mayor. Well, those are the ones who become our mayor and council. Once the election is over, we need to forget about the election and start working to support the mayor and council members who were elected. Now, when I say support, I don't mean you have to agree with everything that's said or not said. It is up to you, the people, we, to let the mayor and council know whether or not we're satisfied with what he or she is doing. And when I say what he or she is doing, I am talking about their policies. What kind of policies are being created? What's being legislated? How are they working to improve our lives? What programs are they trying to bring to the city? What programs are they willing to support that's going to help the city? And when I said the city, I mean the city. Now let's go back to the charter. Now we've had an election. You have gone to the polls and you have determined that you want the people who were elected to represent you. Because if you didn't want them, you should have gone out there and worked to support another candidate. So the election is over. When we look at those candidates up there who are now our elected officials, we have certain expectations, knowing that the charter provides education training for every elected official, the city manager, and the department heads, and the people who work on the department's head providing services. Because no government can operate without an educated staff. I mean, that's logical. In order for the charter to make sure that mayor and council have become educated, there are two stipulations in there. One, the city of East Point government must be a member of Georgia Municipal Association, called GMA, and the National League of Cities, NLC. Those two organizations are about governance, local government and national government. Anything that a council member needs to know concerning the laws of Georgia, what is allowed, what is not allowed, your charter, what is allowed and not allowed. If there is no derivative in the charter, if there's nothing there that you can stand on that says this is derived from the charter. So, if the charter says the city must belong to those two organizations, educational and training, then the city has to provide expenses for mayor and council to attend conferences, any kind of seminars or workshops that either or both of those different conferences set up. That is why in the budget, there are two line items that says funding for each and every council member. But travel and training, education and training. Those are the two items derived from the charter that would ensure mayor and council has access to anything that's offered by GMA or National League of Cities. Later, when I was a council member, we added another item because there is a need for council, for the mayor and council to engage and with their constituents, to let them know what is happening in the city, to get feedback from them on what it is you would like to see happening. What kind of park and recreational programs do you want? What kind of programs, what kind of future do you want here in the city? What about the recreation, more than recreational centers? Not everybody wants to go out there in that field in that hot sun at the sports complex. Not everybody's athletic that way. So what are we doing for every level of residents we have in the city, whether they're homeowners or renters? Those are decisions that residents should have voices in because it will directly affect them. And that's where we are failing. We're not doing our part. And we are allowing our mayor and council to supersede and disregard what is legal and lawful in this city. Well, we want to make sure that there was some constituents provision in which the mayor and council would engage, and we added that to the council, to the quote council budget. There are only three items of budgetary items that are allowed in the city of East Point for allocations in the budget, and that's money for travel and training, education and training. Not a cent of travel and training money, education and training money, meeting with your money for communicating with the constituents should be spent on anything except that. And yet, practically every council member up there is in direct violation of those three items, with the city manager being complicit. Let's see. You have just heard that the budget, our budget, according to what our charter, the state of Georgia, and the federal government says, under which we can make any laws, any taxpayer's money has to be spent on direct significance and services for the residents in that city. They must have a benefit. I'm not talking about pleasure or emotion. You go to the hotel or the polo club for that. Some of you can even go home for it. But that is not what is meant by events. I was shocked when I went to council meeting Monday night. Before I got there, I saw council budgets. Council members do not have a budget other than education and training, travel and training, and communicating with constituents with consumable goods. Consumable, not food, consumable items, flyers, newsletters, telephone calls, things of that nature is what that is for. I became so alarmed and so angry that my chest started rumbling. I got a little alarm there because you know my situation there. But when you hear about these items here, the city of East Point adopted in the last budget that not a single resident went down there to talk about it. I chose not to. I'm tired of being the lone wolf. Too old for it. All you young folks, come out. You want to take over? Start acting responsible and do so. In this budget for events, the total comes to $943,500. Total budget for all miscellaneous events. What in the hell is miscellaneous events? In the budget, as stated, as that the city of East Point is supposed to be using the template that all the other places in Georgia by law have to use. Miscellaneous. Where in the devil did we get $943,500 in miscellaneous funds for council members to play with? Where we have residents in this city who do not have a decent place to go for a meeting. We don't have a one aged, dilapidated recreation center, and that's Jefferson over at Jefferson Park. Children, adults of any age and all in Ward D, where are you going? In Ward C, we have Sykes Parks. Who's going to go up there with all those trees and no security and no light? And when you go up in there, what are you going to find up there? Sumner Park has been dressed up, and we're going to get to that too. East Point, it is ridiculous. Your utility bills have to be paid every month. Your rent has to be paid every month. You have to buy groceries. You have to provide clothing and other items for your family. Some of you are working 2 and 3 jobs. Some of you are working one. Your living conditions are not the best. Transportation. But yet and still, in the budget, you, the taxpayers, the money that comes into this city, it belongs to you, every resident in this city. And they are taking your money, $57,000 from $1 million is $943,500. So that's $56,500 less than being $1 million. Yet, when a resident came up there about a sinkhole in his yard that's supposed to be paid for by the city, and the city said, no, he needs to pay $3,000. You had council members, Council Member Ziegler, Council Member Freely, Council Member Cummins, Council Member Atkins, and Butler sat up there and said, if we allow this, meaning pay that $3,000 that the city said would be his payment charge, then others will come. $3,000 for a whole year from December 2025, 2024 up until December 2025. No, December 2025 up to December 2026. I keep forgetting we're in a new year now. He sat in his house, in his 80s, he and his wife both, ill health, looking out at a sinkhole in the yard that became 3 sinkholes. And that council sat up there, mayor and council sat up there and didn't do anything about the $3,000 until December. Early December, coming out right after the election. A motion was brought to the floor for the city to complete the job. And when that motion came to the floor, those council members listened, oh, if we do that for him, we'll have to do it for others. But yet and still, you had $943,500 miscellaneous, not set aside to provide any service for a single resident in this city, not set aside to do anything to help with any kind of problems that you could logically and legally help to support financially in this city. You chose to come up and talk about council members' budget. Not the mayor or a single council member has earned a cent that goes in these budgets by wards or by their status. Not one penny belongs in their budget. And do you know why? Because nothing in our charter says that you can deny you can deny treatment of taxpayers or residents in the city based on anything at all. If any taxpayers' money is spent, every resident in that city has the right to participate. So you tell me how and where in the charter can you derive any kind of policy, ordinance, or resolution that a council member has access to a certain amount of money beyond what is considered travel, training, education, and communicated with the residents with consumable goods? Not only did they violate that state and federal law, which is a gratuity clause in the state constitution, but they treated the city manager as their administrative financial director, the keeper of the keeper of their foolishness. That violates our form of government totally. That violates any form of government. The supervisor cannot allow the person he or she is supervising to become the financial director, telling a council member or the supervisor what amount of money you have for what event, and it's going to come from me. Now, let me tell you what happened. There was a lot of talk about Wind Down Wednesday. I stated that was a council event. Not a single council member in East Point, in all the years that it Wind Down Wednesday happened, brought a motion to the floor to create it, to support it with a council vote. Nor was there a vote brought to the floor to not support it, not fund it with the council vote. So who decided to have it? They left it up to the city manager and whoever would work on that event and staff together. That is not our form of government. The city manager does not make policy. The city manager does not control the purse strings. That's the council. He implements policies. He implements policy through his staff providing services and all for the city. He is not the bag man for mayor and council. Yet, in order to gain access to this money without having to go before the council, as our charter said has to happen, they created a backdoor miscellaneous events account. That's not in any charter. That is not in the budget. In our budget, every department have line items allocations for which they can request money to carry out their services. In the city manager's office, there is no line item that gives him or her the authority to be the planner and the one who implements events for individual council members or groups of council members that is not a majority who have voted for this in a council meeting. And you know why they don't vote for it in a council meeting? Because any attorney, and I'm not an attorney, I got my degree through law and order. I'm an outhouse attorney. But yet I know any attorney, except the one we have now, that's getting paid $300,000 a year, over $250,000 a year, has yet, she sat there while that motion was made. Councilwoman Cummings said that that event was her idea. That's the only idea she's had up there in 4 years, and what an idea. That they create this. They create this to get past having to take a vote on any of it before the residents in the city, because they know the city, the residents would go bonkers. It would never pass with their support. And you know what, residents? They know you're not going bonkers, because look who you went to the polls and voted. Look at the numbers that went to the polls and voted, and who you voted for. They feel like they can do anything they want to, and they are doing it because of your inactiveness. You have to be an active participant in government if you want good government. Good governance comes with active participation. Now let's see what some of these miscellaneous events are. There is only one section in the budget template that's created by the state of Georgia. Well, miscellaneous funds, and they're not miscellaneous, but grants and donations can go that the council has voted to accept, that is not come under, that do not come under the implementation of any department. If someone donates $1 million to the city, and so we're donating this $1 million to the city for programs and for social and welfare considerations for the residents in your city that is needed. That money goes to non-departmental allocation. It doesn't come under any department. That money, no matter if it's $1, can be only withdrawn when a proposal for any portion of that $1 million said, we want to take $250,000 and help residents with tree cutting, roofs, things in their homes. The proposal has to include the plan, how it's supposed to operate, or most importantly, assigned to a nonprofit that is already set up to do that kind of work. But whichever way it goes, it has to come before the council. And the council will have to vote on it for the implementation of it. If it said, well, we want $7,000 to augment to provide transportation for people going back and forth to parks and recs, up to the Biden Center, which is a senior citizen that federal dollars have to support and build through the county. But you have East Point residents that say they don't have transportation that way. It's not built up. And they need to come out of these apartments and homes and go over there. Well, that $1 million says social welfare programs. So you bring out the written proposal, the written plan of how this money is supposed to be spent that has already gone through the purchasing department. I don't care if it's 7,000. Any money coming out of non-departmental has to be voted on by mayor and council. These events here never saw the light of day of mayor and council. Never came to the table. Here we go. Miscellaneous refund. How in the hell is miscellaneous refund going to be miscellaneous? How did it become a refund? All right. Golden Age Resource Fair, $5,000. Juneteenth, $50,000. Sister Cities Initiative, $40,000. Sister cities that the that we had legally established between East Point and I forget the name of the sister city. That program ceased when I left office. After I left office, the group here in the city of East Point that worked with that, the president of it there is still here in the city, ended it. And so graciously gave me a picture from that program. We don't have an active legal sister city program in this city. None has come before the city to restart or create. So where's that $50,000 going? Turkey giveaway of $15,000. Council retreat, $8,000. You paying more for a Juneteenth, some of these other programs than training, educational training for the council. Legislative roundtable. That's when go downtown to the state capitol and usually have breakfast with the state representatives. That's $3,500. Senior mayor, senior summit. The mayor does not have a senior summit. Our senior programs are established through the county. We do not have 50,000 residents. Therefore, senior services are provided through Fulton County. The Biden Center. What kind of senior summit will the mayor be having? That's just another means of campaigning. All of these things here are nothing but campaigning opportunities for exposure to the residents by elected officials who have done hand-you-rabbi nothing to improve the lives of the residents in the city. Okay, we have Silver Fox Ball, Ward D at large. $25,000 for the Silver Fox Ball. 25. Let me tell you something when money is spent. And Councilmember Butler recognized this and spoke and agreed. Whenever an event is paid for by taxpayers' money, that means every resident in that city has the legal right to attend in keeping with the requirements and all others. Have a legal right to attend. Now, how are you going to, and I asked the question, how do you decide which seniors? Because there is a fire code that establishes how many people can populate that area. So if it can only populate only 250 people can fill that space. How are you going to go about identifying these 250 people or 150 people? Are you sending out invitations? When you start segregating any subgroup in the larger group, you are then going against and creating a gratuity for that smaller group. The larger group cannot participate. That is, you have selected your campaign donors, your supporters, your friends, their friends, and future you hope voters for to attend that function. You can't do that unless you have a lottery. There has to be a lottery for the 250 people who can populate that area to get tickets for. About 8 years ago, here in Atlanta Public Schools had a problem with pre-kindergartens. They had more children than they had spaces in the school. So what happened? You couldn't go and just invite your friends. The people that worked there just could not go and identify them. They had a lottery. All eligible children of that age, their parents had to enter into a lottery for space because that was a public funded program. But no, here in East Point, we pay. I never did. I never had an event in my life that the city of East Point supported. Yet I donated through from organizations and all $35,000 in gift cards to the residents of the city of East Point, and not a cent came out of the city of East Point treasury. Programs and all, it can be done. If you want that, then you get out there and work for it to happen, and it can be documented. Okay, next. Side for the municipal meetings, $3,000. That's the only legal worthwhile event on here. Special events, miscellaneous, council events, no name, they just called special. $50,000. You cannot spend a cent of taxpayers' money without identifying the source, the plan, or whatever. I don't care if you're the mayor, the council, by vote, or even the city manager. This violates every phase of our charter, as well as the state. Here we go again. Ward A events. Ward A, you can't have any events that's public that's limited to Ward A, that's paid for by taxpayers' money. They're going to have lectures or workshops, $6,000. What kind of lecture or workshop you going to have? One that you can direct towards further elections. All of these are nothing but you paying off and trying to get new supporters for your election or a friend's election. You can't even name $56,000. Ward A at large. Now we're going to have a stage, a council stage, $150,000. What does this council need for a stage? When Fulton County government has a stage that if we want to rent or what have you or use, we can. Halloween, $10,000. What do we look like paying $10,000 for Halloween when we have children can't even get to school in decent clothing with decent food? If you want to have a Halloween party, go out there and work with the business. Get some of the money in donations. Residents, they have church things like that. If you want to have one again, you get the money. But the minute you say Halloween party and you spending any kind of council money, taxpayers' money, any person in the city can come that has a child of that age. Then they get that. Oh, we got to stop because and back to this. How are you notifying all the eligible people for the use of this money? I did not know of any of this foolishness here. And Lord knows my number, face, email address, telephone number has been out there for the 52 years in this city. And my telephone number has never changed. I did not know. So if I didn't know, but all the calling folks come and tell me, they didn't know. Who knew about it? Your few select friends. Nobody elected you to give you money to have parties, have events, and all just for a few on your streets or two or three streets around you. How many council members even know the streets in their ward, local or at large? That is what you're supposed to be trying to do, get information about what is going on there. Then we had a jazz festival, $40,000. ML King, $15,000. Where in the hell did $15,000 go for Martin Luther King's celebration? He is turning over in his grave to think that $15,000 was used to help pay and for a saxophone player over there in City Hall with that only holds at most, and I'm stretching it, 100 people. Then they had some. I don't know where they had the others. I didn't even know about that. Martin Luther King never sat down and had a saxophone player for entertainment when he was out there walking. Those people who died on whose shoulders we now stand, they never had entertainment that was paid for. If they had $15,000, that was to go out there to educate and get more volunteers and have the people in the community know about existing programs and all. Yet, here's the private club, Ward A, at large. Ward A has a jazz festival at large, $40,000. ML King, Ward A at large, $15,000. Ward C at large, blankets and basket jazz concert, $30,000. If you got a basket and a blanket and food, you turn your radio on and go to the park and have your freaking jazz festival. Ward C at large, senior stroll, $7,500. If these seniors can line dance, they don't need to stroll. They can go up to the Bible Center. Every church and all around here can have some kind of a program. You have them out there in the streets. Whenever a legitimate program comes about, they're out there strolling. That's just a means of you trying to pay off seniors who are known as legacy voters. You can't bribe me with a senior stroll. You insult me and every other senior around here. Next, 3-on-3 basketball tournament. Go to Denver. Autism Awareness Day with friends. Ward D. That's Autism Awareness Day with friends. Back to school event, Ward D. That's 10,000, 10,000. And community meeting gatherings, 25,000. Litter initiative, 30,000. Wednesday wind down, 400,000. I will be posting this event on my website. You can also find it on the council agenda on page 16 of the 600 pages that's on that agenda. I did not mean to get Pittman stop line. I did. I feel this personally because I know the people in this city, even though they have changed and left, others have come in. I make it a point of getting to know them too. It is ridiculous. Of the $943,500, $649,187.46 has been spent. That leaves $294,312.54. Now, residents, you, me, and everyone in this city who hears about this and know about this need to contact your council member or show up at council meeting and say, I want this $294,312 put in that you have a miscellaneous events account to be used to defund all council events. And that money is to be used for social welfare events, welfare programs for the city to be announced. Residents would have the say in how that money is spent. This round here is nothing more than campaigning all 4 years on the taxpayers' dime, with the taxpayers getting nothing out of it. I see that I am over a time. So I'm going to have to stop here now. I think I have about 2 more minutes. I will be going and adding this information and other on my website. But listen to WCEG Talk Radio. The different link, I will get a link. I will be sending it out on my e-blast. You take that link and you send it out on your e-blast. You need to get your business together. If you don't take care of your business, somebody else will. And that's what the council is up there doing and the city manager, spending your money. And who's benefiting from it? You don't even know about it. So how can it be for the public? We're tired of it. Now, February the 10th, the second Tuesday, and the 24th, the fourth Tuesday, will be my next Take a Stand meeting on WCEG. Please go and look at WCEG, and I promise you, you will take a stand and your life will be better. Thank you. Until the next time, February the 10th, 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock. Goodbye.